All right, here we go. So we're going to start off with number one. How this is going to work is you're going to tell me what answers you got, and then we're going to go over them. Okay. So starting with number one, and don't be embarrassed, safe space. Number one, 1, 2, 3. What answer? Okay. All right. The answer is C. Whoa. Let's go over why. This is a two-part problem. Step one is to solve for t. Step two is to plug in t. Does that make sense? So step one, we solve for t. We have 3t minus 7 equals 5t. I'm going to subtract 3t because I need to combine like terms. After I combine like terms, I get negative 7 equals 2t. To get t, I divide by 2. And fractions are our friends. So we get t equals negative 7 halves. After I do step one, I do step two. And step two, we're going to plug in t. So we get 6 times negative 7 halves. When you're multiplying a fraction times a whole number, the whole number only multiplies to the numerator. 6 times negative 7 is negative 42. Negative 42 divided by 2 is negative 21. And that is why the answer is 21. Negative 21. Yes? Okay. When you see it all worked out, is it a doable problem? All right, next. All right, if variables x and y are directly proportional and y equals 2 when x equals 3, what is the value of y when x equals 9? Now, the directly proportional thing, like what big words we have, but don't be afraid of them. All that just means is that there is an equal change in the x as there is an equal change in the y. In Algebra 1, you guys should have talked about it as meaning y equals k times x. But we're not even going to worry about Algebra 1. We're going to go back to 5th and 6th grade math. And when you have that 5th and 6th grade math, if I have y equals 2 and x equals 3, if I have x over y, that means I have 3 over 2. And that has to be the same for every proportion, every fraction that I set up. Does that make sense? So if my x is 3 and then the next x is 9, well, what would this y have to be? 6, so that this can stay proportional, so that this can stay equal. How did this change? It changed by a factor of 3. So therefore, this has to also change by a factor of 3. Okay? Next, find the equation of a line passing through. Algebra 1, very beginning of Algebra 1. You're at 6, 9. If you're at 0, 0, that means your y-intercept is 0, which means that you can automatically eliminate A and B. Okay? Because your y-intercept has to be at 0. When your y-intercept is at 0, to find your slope, your change in y over change in x, you just use your given x and y. My given y is 9. My given x is 6. What does that reduce down to? 3 over 2. So you should have gotten D. Okay? That's because your y-intercept is 0. If you are not, then change in y. Slope would be our 9 minus 0 over our 6 minus 0. Do you see why it's just 9 over 6? Okay. I forgot to ask, what do we get for 4? We got a D, we got a B, we got anything else? Okay. If you said D, you are correct. Okay. This is multiplication. All right. It is a rectangle. It says that if you have a total of, so essentially you are planting, and in each row you have 3x minus 2, and then you don't know what it is. So some unknown amount, right? And all together inside, it has to equal 24x minus 16. So 3x minus 2 times what is going to give me 24x minus 16 is all that it's asking. So essentially, it's division. So you have 24x minus 16 divided by 3x minus 2. Could you do some weird division, aka long division? Yes, but is it necessary? No, just factor. And when you factor, what happens to your numerator and your denominator? They cancel out, and you're just left with 8. Okay? So either use a little bit of number sense or do a little bit of math, and you still end up in the same. All right, 5. What did y'all get for 5? We got 10. Okay. How did you solve it? We did some substitution. So you plugged and chugged. So okay.
8 minus number 1 with the answer choice. We multiply that number by 4.5 and then you add them both together. And if it's equal to 113, it's the right one.
Correct.
Isn't it just 18 person?
Yeah, so it's in total, you have 18 soups and sandwiches. Yeah, they got one or the other. They didn't get both, they got one or the other. So there's in total 18. So if these are the number of sandwiches, that means that for soups, this has to be 11. If this is the number of sandwiches, then for soups, this has to be 10. If this is the number of sandwiches, this has to be 9. This has to be 8. Does that make sense? Because in total, your X and your Y has to equal 18. So your soups and your sandwiches. Okay. And in total, together as price, you have that sandwiches cost $7.75. And you have that soups cost $4.50. So $4.50 amount of soups plus $7.75 of sandwiches has to equal $113.50. Okay, so what you set up here is from the Algebra 1. It's called a system. And in Algebra 1, you guys learn how to solve systems. These guys right here. When you have a system, they're going to do one or two things, right? They're going to intersect, well, three things. They're going to intersect, they're going to be parallel, or they're going to overlap. Do y'all remember that? And the solution is where they intersect. But when we're doing this, we don't have the ability to intersect, right? Because we're not allowed to use a graphing calculator. You guys learn what's called the substitution method, okay? So in Algebra 1, you learn how to substitute in, or you should have learned. Plug and chug is always golden, okay? Plugging and chugging is always golden. But you also could have solved it via substitution, okay? So I'm going to quickly go through substitution with you just to remind you. But again, can you plug and chug? Yes, you can. So really quick with substitution. Because we're trying to figure out how many sandwiches, and I labeled sandwiches as my Y's, that means I need to get X by itself because I have to now replace the X because all I'm talking about are sandwiches. Does that make sense? So when I get X by itself, that means that X equals 18 minus Y. So everywhere that there's an X, I can substitute in so that now all I'm doing is solving for Y's. So this becomes 450, and this was X, so it now becomes 18 minus Y plus 775y equals 113.50. Okay, we distribute. This is 81 minus 450y plus 775y equals 113.50. The amount of time it would take you to do this is the same amount of time it took you to plug and chug. Okay, I combine like terms, so I have negative 450 and I have positive 775. That's going to leave me with 81 plus 325y. And now I'm going to subtract 81. What I do one side, I do to the other, and I'm left with 325y equals 3250. And now I divide both sides by 325, and we get 10. So we know that y equals 10 sandwiches. Okay? That's how you would solve it without a graphing calculator. Oh, but can you plug and chug? Yes, you can. The first part of your plugging and chugging was to figure out what are the number of soups. After you figure out the number of soups, you're just plugging in to see which one makes 113.50. All right. There may be napkins in the bottom bin. Or some. All right, next. If we got this wrong, I'm going to be real mad because we just took a test over it. We are fighting. All right. What's the answer? B. Is B. All right. If I know the solutions, what are my factors? Hit it.
So much fun.
Because your factors are the opposite of your solutions. And now what do I do? Box or FOIL? Do I care which one you do? No, you just need to do it. So we get x squared plus 3x minus 1x minus 3. And combine and we get so why did we all get this right?
I did it.
Okay. All right. 7, what'd you get? We got an A. Okay. Let's talk about y-intercept. Anytime it tells you to find the y-intercept, that means let x equal 0. Anytime it tells you to find the y-intercept, that means you're plugging in 0 for x. Everywhere that there's an x, you put a 0. So we get y equals 2 times 0 plus 3 and 0 minus 4. So y equals 2 times 3 times negative 4. So y equals 6 times negative 4. And therefore y equals negative 24. And that is why it is 8. Anytime it says y-intercept, that means you're doing what? You plug in zeros for x's. If you didn't do it this way, the only other way of doing it without a graphing calculator is to go ahead and distribute in FOIL, and your constant is your y-intercept. All right. All right. What did y'all get for 8? 8. We got what? We got an A. It is A. It is A. All right. This goes back to our factoring unit that we had to make up for this course. Okay. This is difference of 2 squares. I am subtracting 2 perfect squares. When you're subtracting 2 perfect squares, that means to factor, you take the square root of the first term, you take the square root of the second term, and your factors are then added and subtracted. So that gives me x squared plus 1 times x squared minus 1. Okay, I'm not done because this is still a dots. It's still 2 perfect squares that are being subtracted. So you're going to take the square root of the first term, the square root of the second term, and that leaves me with x minus 1 and x plus 1. And don't forget your other one, which is why it is A. You can't do it for the other one because it's not difference. It is sum. Okay, you only can do it for difference. All right? We better not have gotten this wrong. What did we get for 9?
B.
Say, what'd y'all say?
B.
What'd y'all say?
B.
D. It is D. Oh my God. All right. This is the distribution of power property. That means I'm distributing, and mathematically, when we are distributing, we are doing what? Multiplying. When we are distributing, we are multiplying. So this becomes 3 to the third times 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. So automatically you should have eliminated C and A. Okay, and then what is 3 to the third? 27. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. It is not 3 plus 3 plus 3. It is 3 times 3 times 3. Okay? Exponential is repeated multiplication. Multiplication is repeated addition. Okay? All right. Don't do that again. Questions about 9? All right. 10 is going back to Algebra 1, inverse operations. And what do we get? It's B.
Whoa.
All right, let's talk about inverse operations. You have 5 minus x equals 4. What is the inverse operation of square root? Square. So to cancel it out, I square it. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now we're left with 5 minus x equals 16. What is the inverse operation of adding 5? Subtracting 5. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Now we're left with negative x equals 11. What is the inverse operation of multiplying by negative 1? Dividing by negative 1. And therefore, x equals what? Negative 11, which is B. Okay? Inverse operations. That means we need to remember our inverses. Okay? You can always plug and chug. Plug and chug is always your friend. Plugging and chugging, I'm never going to tell you not to. All right. So 11, what did y'all put? I got a C. Anyone else? We got C. All right. Let's talk about it. So do you guys remember what a proportion is? A proportion is when you have a fraction equal to a fraction. So in this case, we would have x minus 1 over x equals 20 over 1. And that's because you can turn any whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Okay? Way back in elementary school, you were taught how to solve proportions. Does anyone remember the method of solving proportions? It's called what? Some teachers may have called it the butterfly. Some teachers may have called it cross multiplication. My teacher called it the butterfly and actually made us draw butterflies. Okay? So your first thing is you are going to cross multiply. Here's your first little wing. And you get 1 times x minus 1. And then you're going to make it equal. And here's your equal. And then you're going to multiply again. And it's a butterfly. And our teacher used to make us draw the face on it. And here's your little butterfly. There it is. And now it went from being fractions to being not a fraction. Do we see how it's no longer a fraction? And can we easily solve this? Yes, we get x minus 1 equals 20x. So we're going to subtract our x. And we're left with negative 1 equals 19x. And then we divide by 19. And therefore, x equals negative 1 over 19. There's more than one way of doing it. Okay? Now, when we did this in elementary school in 5th grade, we did not have a bunch of x's. It was just one x unknown. I don't know if y'all remember that. It wasn't x minus. It was just like 5 and x. Okay? But yes, so therefore the answer should have been C. Does this help? Do we see it? Do y'all see how the butterfly method can be your friend? I'll call him Butter. All right, up next. So up next, we have a ball that has been kicked into the air 20 feet, and it wants to know how high did the ball go. What did y'all get? I'm going to tell you how to do it without decimals. You use part of it, not all of it. But are ready to go how? Don't blame this. It is. All right, let's talk about it. So you do use the quadratic formula, but not the entire quadratic formula. When you're looking for, this is a quadratic that goes up and comes down. Even if you didn't know that, obviously, if you're kicking a ball in the air, it's going to come back down, right? And it's asking it at what is the highest point the ball is in the air. They gave us a quadratic formula because, as you can see, this is a sad parabola. It is a negative quadratic, right? And so the quadratic formula, we have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. From the quadratic, the only part that we actually have to utilize is the outside distance. We only need those two guys. That's all you need from the quadratic in order to solve this. That's because the outside of this tells you at what x value this high part is going to be at. So this is going to tell you the x, and the x equals your negative b divided by 2a. And then once you know your x, could you solve for your y? Yes, that's what the quadratic tells us. So the first thing we're going to do is solve for our x. Your x, again, is your negative b divided by 2a. What is our b? 32. So we have negative 32 divided by, and what is our a? Negative 16. So that gives us negative 32 divided by, which just equals 1. So now we know that our x is 1. If I know the x, can I solve for the y? Yes. So we're going to find y at 1. Y at 1 means everywhere that there's a t, I'm plugging in a 1. So we have negative 16, 1 squared, plus 32 times 1, plus 20. Now, the problem is in Algebra 1, you guys should have learned how to do this by hand. However, you were very Desmos dependent. And if Desmos, I can graph this and click on it and it tells me, guess what you're going to learn how to do? You're going to learn how to do that. But that's a-okay. So we get negative 16 plus 32 plus 20, which gives us 16 plus 20. And therefore, our y at 1 equals 36. And that is why 36 is your highest. Okay, so you're not using the entire, you're only using parts of it. Got it? All right. How we feel? Okay, 13. What'd you get for 13? We got a B. We got anyone else? I got a C. Okay. All right, so let's talk about 13. 13, you have a rectangle. That's my rectangle. And you know that the perimeter of the rectangle is 72. Perimeter means that you have X and Y and X and Y. And all together, your 2 X's plus your 2 Y's has to equal 72. Yes? Then it says, if the length L of your yard is 18 longer than the width of your yard, what is the area of the yard? Well, we know Y is our X plus 18. Does that make sense? So now I can substitute in for Y with X plus 18. So where Y is, I can plug in X plus 18. So we get 2X plus 2 times X plus 18 equals 72. So we get 2X, distribute, plus 2X plus 36 equals 72. I'm going to subtract 36, and I'm going to combine 2X and 2X. What does 2X and 2X make? 4X. What is 72 minus 36? 36. And then we do what? Divide by 4. What is our X equal? Our X equals 9. So if X equals 9, I now know that this is 9, and this is 9, and this has to be what? 27. Do I have everything I need to now find the area? Yes, because your area equals what? Length times width, and our length is 27, and our width is 9. And what does that give me? 243. That's an ugly 3. There it goes. And that is how you should have solved that problem. Your other option is, I don't know. But okay. All right. 14 goes back to mean, median, mode. Do y'all remember that? Your single variable statistics from 4th grade. If we're looking at the median, and our median is 81, that means 81 is smack dab in the middle, and that there's 2 numbers to its right, and there's 2 numbers to its left. So when I look over here, my 2 numbers to its right would be 87 and 93. So because all of its right is taken, that means that the only thing that couldn't be the answer is 85, because there's no room left to the right. is there? Nope, there isn't. There is not. So therefore, it couldn't be anything bigger than 81. Does that make sense? That's all this problem was a definition problem. And it may be a mode. And what does mode mean? The most, which one appears the most, right? It could be a mean. And what does mean? Average, the average between your numbers, right? And last, in terms of statistics, what is the range? But you do what with those numbers? You subtract them. Your range is your highest number minus your lowest number when you're talking about statistics, okay? Not in algebra, but in statistics, it is your high minus your low. Got it? So remembering those terms, because you will have a problem on one of them. All right, was this good? Our last one for the day. You didn't like this one? All right, this one is another statistics problem, okay? It is a data breakdown. So it was friendly numbers. So in together, there are 20 children in the cast. So altogether, you have 20 kids. Of those 20, 8 of the children are boys, okay? Do you guys remember Venn diagrams? Okay, so altogether, you have what? You have 8 boys, and therefore you have how many girls? 12, because how many total? 20, right? So we have 8 boys and 12 girls. Then it says, of the boys, 4 have a speaking part in the play. So the S is going to be our overlapping, our speaking part. So from the boys, we have 4 of them are going to be speaking, right? Now, the girls, 8 do not have a speaking part. 8 of them do not. And how many are there? 12. So how many are in the middle? 4 of them have speaking parts. Does that make sense? Yeah, y'all are with me? So together, how many of these kids have speaking parts? 8. So that means our numbers have changed. So yes, in terms of speaking and not speaking, there are 4 non-speaking boys and there are 8 non-speaking, but all together, this is 20. Does that make sense? So when I ask you for your data, out of the 20, how many are speaking? 8. And 8 out of 20 reduces to what? To 2/5. 4 out of 10, which reduces down to 2 out of 5, which is why the answer should have been A. Okay. Do y'all remember Venn diagrams and setting them up, the data from given information? A little bit. Okay. As you can see, all of this test is pretty much algebra and below. Okay. There's a little bit of geometry, but it's like still geometry that would have been middle school geometry, correct? There's no sine, no cosine, no tangent, none of that. There's no polynomials other than a quadratic. So it is a totally doable test that you can pass the first 20, because our goal is to pass the first 20 and not have to do the additional 48. All right. If these are your hardest 15 types of problems that you may get, what do you feel? What are your odds? I'm feeling like, oh, this is doable with just the 20. We see that? 15. Okay. Your goal, it is possible to get the 15 out of 20. Right? Especially if those 5 are super easy, right? We didn't go over the easy 5s. But there's 5 easy ones that are generally in there. Like plugging it, I'll show you an example. So like you may get one like this. Here's your X, your Y, your Z. That's considered one of the easy ones. Could you do that? Yeah, you can totally do that. Yeah, you can totally do that. All right. All right. Questions for me about TSI? Did everyone check the list that I posted to see where you go and when you test on Thursday and Friday? Okay. So make sure you do that.